Hi, my name is Shireen Vlobergs and I'm the Law Librarian at the University of Tasmania Law Library. Welcome to the first of the University of Tasmania Law Library podcasts on citators and digests. The purpose of the podcast is to introduce you to two key legal research tools, citators and digests. We recommend these tools to you as essential to your legal research, both during your university career and in practice. And it's worthwhile to take this opportunity to understand the resources and take the time to learn how to use them. In this podcast, we'll look at the first of these two tools, citators. The purpose of the podcast on citators is to bring to your attention the variety of case citators available at the University of Tasmania Law Library, and also to take you through a demonstration on how to use some of the online case citators. So what is a case citator? Case citators are a means for you to find vital information about the case, rather than a way for you to find the case itself. They'll provide you with a summary of the case, and also tell you what has happened since that case. Citators are reliable sources. They are written by experts in the field and assist you to locate relevant case law to your topic. They can help you to ensure that the case you have found is good law. Case citators are important tools for legal research. They provide you with key information about a case, including the correct citation for a case, whether the case has been reported in multiple volumes, if any cases were considered by the case, any legislation was considered by the case, and also if any subsequent cases have considered our case, and whether any journal articles have discussed the case. So why is this information useful to you? With the information that case citators provide, you can use them for a number of different purposes. For example, case citators will allow you to determine if your case is still good law, in that you can track the history of your case and see whether it has been overturned on appeal at a later time. The citator also helps inform you of the treatment of your case by subsequent courts. For example, how have they treated a principle of law discussed in your case? Citators will include multiple citations of each case, so it can be useful to locate the correct citation when you don't have a full citation, or to establish if the case has been picked up by an authorized report series, and where else it can be found. Citators will allow you to find journal articles that have considered your case, and this will help you to continue with your research. You can also search for cases that have considered a particular provision within legislation. This can be useful when you're looking at a piece of legislation and trying to understand how it is being applied by the courts. Case citators do have limitations, so it's useful when you're using them to be aware of those limitations and not to be caught out by them. So the first limitation you would want to be aware of when you're searching case citators is that your search terms will not search across the full text of a case. Case citators only provide information about the case, and so when you search the data in the citator record or summary of the case, it'll only pick up information such as citation, party names, jurisdiction, court, judge, and also some of the catchwords used to describe the case. The other thing to be aware of is that they're updated by editors manually, so they may not be accurate to the date that you're looking. So it's useful to look in the database just to check when it was last updated. The third thing that's useful to check is the scope and coverage of individual citators. They don't cover all jurisdictions or all law reports, and so if you're searching for cases, you'd be likely to check multiple case citators when you found a case, rather than just rely on a single case citator all the time. So what case citators are available? The University of Tasmania subscribes to a number of Australian case citators, as well as citators from other jurisdictions. The main case citators we use here at the University of Tasmania are First Point, which is located within the Westlaw AU database. Similarly, CaseBase is the case citator that sits within Lexis Advanced Pacific. You can search these two sources to discover the reliability of your case. They use signals to give you an indication as to whether the case is reliable, and you can read the annotations, that is the information on subsequent cases that have cited the case, to determine whether your case is still good law. There's also free online citators, and one of the most commonly known ones is LawCite, which is a Case Citator within OSLI. This actually links to international cases and has a number of really good links to journal articles and law reform reports which discuss your case, and can be an excellent legal research tool. More recently, Jade has been created, and I've included the web address for Jade if you'd like to have a look at it. In my experience, Jade is very useful when you're looking at lower court decisions that are unreported. So we're going to do a demonstration of those three Australian case citators: LawCite, CaseBase, and FirstPoint. OSLI is a free online site, and you can find it just by Googling it. It is hosted by the University of New South Wales and the University of Technology Sydney collaboratively, and it's an excellent resource. If you want to use the citator within OSLI, you would go to select LawCite on the right-hand side. So we're going to just put in our citation here. So we might have a year, court, and number associated with our case. And this takes us to the case of Pico Holdings Incorporated. So what you'll see here is generically what you'll find in most citators. So you'll have the party names, Pico Holdings. You'll have the citation that was put in, so the High Court of Australia medium neutral citation. But you can also see parallel citations available. So we have the Australian Law Reports and the Australian Law Journal Reports citations as well. It gives you the court, the jurisdiction, the date of judgment. It also gives you a list of cases referring to our case. So most recent on the top, we have a 2017 case from QCAT, and going down, other significant cases. Further down, you'll also see what legislation was cited in our case of Pico Holdings, and also a number of associated cases. So in this case, it was the earlier disputes and how they were consolidated in this High Court dispute. So in addition to that, we do have some basic symbols. So we have a jurisdictional symbol. We also have stars which indicate that there's been some significant citations of this case. So generally each star is about 50 citations. It's been picked up by 50 other cases at least. And similarly with the cases that have been citing our case, we have a citation index information. So how many cases have cited Pico Holdings, and then how many cases have cited those cases in turn. Going back to the Law Library homepage, if you are wanting to get access to the citators that are subscribed to by the university, you will need to go in through the university homepage, and this will validate your access as a current student of the university. The way to get to the databases, you might want to go through the subject guides. So here we have the subject guides on law, and we want to look at the legal skills research guide. For citators, we're going to go down to the case law tab. And where can I find more information about my case citator? So here we have a link to LawCite, which is the OSLI site, and also to the Westlaw Citator FirstPoint and the Lexis Citator CaseBase. I'll show you first the Westlaw Citator. So this is a basic search function within the Citator. So you can search free text, so that would be a generic keyword search. or if you're wanting to search with subject headings, party name, citation, select your classification, and so forth. So, as mentioned before, we're searching what's available in the citator, as opposed to searching across full text of cases. And similarly, we can search for cases that might define words and phrases, or have discussed a particular provision within the legislation. And we can also limit our searches to only reported cases, and those that have been recently updated. So there's a few more search functions than LawCite. However, very similar sort of theme. So if we were to put in our citation, just so we can have a look at what citation information is given by first point. So here we have our first point information. Now you'll see here we've got some very easy links to the full text of the case as well, but we're most interested at this point in our first point citator information. So at the very top of that, you'll see the party names, PICO Holdings. And then to the very right of that, you'll see a flag or signal. If you hover over the flag, it gives you information. So it warns that the case should be viewed with caution. However, the case has not been reversed, varied, disapproved, or overruled. Then as you scroll down, we have information about the court, the judges, the judgment date, jurisdiction. We've got the court file number itself. We've got our alternate citations, so the Australian Law Journal reports, the Australian Law reports, and you'll notice it's also picked up in other law report series. Information about the legal representatives and the classification. So this classification is given to the case to help you sort of get a sense of where the case sits. So it sits within what area of law it sits. So it sits within contracts, and within that subcategory is the general contractual principles, in particular parties and general principles about parties. Also, it falls within a second classification of mortgages. So these, what we call digest terms, are included below, and so there's a little bit more information about the case. So it gives you some catchwords or keywords, and then a little bit of a summary of the case. So what was held in that particular case, under each of those legal questions. It takes you now to the earlier litigation history. So again, we've got signals that tell us that the earlier case of PICO Holdings was overturned, and we can get links to the full text of those earlier cases between the parties. And then we have what has happened since our case, so cases that have cited our case and how they have treated our case. So we have here a 2016 decision which distinguishes a particular point of law, and 2009 decision. We also have decisions which have applied points of law from our case, and those that have considered our case. We have the cases that PICO Holdings itself cites, and we've got some information about journal articles that have talked about our case. So it gives us a lot of information about our case and some really great leads in our legal research in this particular area of law. Another thing to note about first point is on the left-hand side, we have the Australian Digest terms. So these are the terms, they're called subject headings, and they help us find cases that fit within those subject headings. So it's just, rather than searching for our case, this is a way of browsing for cases in a particular area of law. So if we're interested in, for example, contracts, and and we're interested in general contractual principles. Perhaps we're thinking about what illegal and void contracts might be and the effect of that in validity. And searching for cases within that category. Here we have 31 results. We may wish to refine those results. So in terms of the effect of illegal or invalid contracts, the most recent case is coming up at the top of the 31 and so forth. We might want to get results where we have the most superior courts coming up first. So here we have a High Court case which talks about the effect of illegal or invalid contracts. And so that might be something that we again want to have a look at. So here we have case-based cases, and we can do, again we can browse. For our cases. Or we might want to simply do a general search. So we would go to the front, so we would put in our citation. This takes us directly to the case itself. So again, we can go to similar to first point, we can go directly to the text of the case, or we can look at the case-based record on the case. So you'll see here similarly you'll have a symbol or flag, and this also indicates that cautionary treatment is indicated. If you want more information about the signals, you can see what each of the signals means. So what it tells you when you put your cursor over it, and an explanation of what that means. We've also got multiple citations from the case that you would be familiar with. The court, judges, judgment date, catchwords and digest terms. The litigation history. So here we have the 2004-2013 disputes between the cases that led to the High Court case. Case-based also gives us a lovely cases referring to our case. So most have been neutral, but one has been positive and one has been as a cautionary result. And for a little bit more detail, we can go directly to those cases. It gives you links to publications referring to our case. So you'll note between the three citators, we've looked at the same case, but there's a range of articles that discuss the case, and we've gained a broader understanding of what other resources are available by checking multiple cases. And it also goes into the legislation considered by this case. So by contrast, we've got LawCite, which tells us the legislation considered was the Property Law Act, whereas Lexis is also telling us that other provisions within the corporations law were also considered. So this is just an introduction to these different case citators, and hopefully that will help you start to explore the resources yourselves and start to use them. So in addition to the Australian Case Citators, we also have international Case Citators that we subscribe to. So we have ICLR 3, the third version, which helps you search UK law reports. We have JustCite, which is also a UK-based citator. We have Best Case, which helps search Canada's main law reports. And we're going to take you through a demonstration of looking at an international case citator. And these are all located in the library subject guide. So returning to the library homepage, we're going to look again at our subject guides and law, legal skills research, and finding case law, and finding more information about our cases. So we've listed a lot of international citators. So the New Zealand one is located within Westlaw AU, so it's a very similar format. And we might want to put our case in there or search by subject heading. And as you can see, briefcase, very similar product to First Point. You'll note that the signal indicates there's some litigation history, that legislation considered, cases cited, and an indication of journals that have noted the case. Our site is the UK Case Citator. So Just Cite, again you can put in your citation or the title, the party names, or do a keyword search. What I like about Just Cite is it makes it a bit easier for you. So let's just do a keyword search. And here we see a results page listing quite a significant number because we put in a very broad search. What I do like about the results page is that it actually gives you a quick summary of how the case has been treated. So you've got 66 positive treatments of our case, quite a few neutral and 8 negative. So maybe that we want to go straight to our negative or just get a little bit more information about the case itself. We've got the jurisdiction. The summary is a lot more brief. However, we've got some key subsequent treatments and articles about the case itself. And if we wanted to link over to the full text, we would go across here. That's an example of 2 international case citators. You'll see that the case citators themselves are quite similar in a lot of ways, and the logic behind them is the same. And hopefully an understanding of that will help you use different citators over time. Hopefully that's given you a good brief introduction to citators. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. The information is here, so law.reference@utas.edu.au, or you can come into the law library or give us a call. We're always happy to hear from you. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.